Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this video, you've agreed to become part of Laurel Light's user test for our little system here. The purpose of the video is to explain what's involved in the system itself and its basic theory of operation. We'll follow up with a later YouTube on how to install it. For now, let me explain what parts make the system up. Part 1 is whatever radar detector you may have selected to use. You might take a Valentine 1 or an Escort or a Beltronics, or perhaps you take a Cheetah. Anything that has a connector like this, with the two center leads being positive and negative 12 volts, is going to work with this thing. We haven't tested everything, but that's part of what you guys are for, because you're all going to have different units. We have the CPU itself, which basically contains 4 different boards. Our GPS and processor, Hall elements, LED display drivers, and power supplies, all in one tiny little box. The lid is the heat sink, which is also ground, so you probably don't want to touch that against positive wherever you mount it. And it runs out to an ordinary automotive 12-volt relay and our heatsink light display array that goes behind your plates. Well, the way that works is really pretty simple. It basically fits right behind the holes of the plates, just like this, so that when the system goes on, let me turn it on for you here. As you can see, it's very, very bright. I'll turn the system off for a sec. With this heatsink, it'll run for an extended period of time. The whole system draws about 10 watts, which is about the same as your tag light. So really, all we're doing is redirecting the tag light's power from the tag light itself to our light array. Now the switch, this mounts in your dash, and it basically has 3 positions: on, off, and auto. At its core, our system really is a fantastic backup light. It's about 700 lumens, which is about half the power of one front headlight. And essentially, you can just turn on the backup light, as you see me do here. When the backup light's on, your little red LED on your panel is on. Or you can turn the whole system off. And when you turn the whole system off, you notice your radar detector's off. Your radar detector's also off when you're running your backup lights. And the reason we did this way is because if you're going to be backing up, you don't need a radar detector on. Or if you're in a municipality that doesn't allow a radar detector or a system like this, you can just run with the whole system off, which is absolutely fine. So you can cooperate with whatever the local laws are, because we don't want you getting in trouble with the law. And the final setting, of course, is turning the switch position up. When the switch position is up, you hear the radar detector enable. And you see I'm getting about 1.2 volts over here on my warm-up setting with the 2 leads on the side that I'm using just to tune the device. Now the device will come from us tuned to about 1.2 volts. And you're going to have to go ahead and attach your radar detector yourself, whichever one you use. I may set it up so that you can tune it a little bit. And the net of that will be that it's basically sensing where the threshold for the current on this whole thing is. The way this unit is designed, it's set up so that if it draws any current at all from the radar detector,
GPS filter off,
the lights go on. So if your radar detector pings, yells, yelps, screams, alarms in any way, your tail lights go on for 30 seconds. But because of the GPS system in it, and the GPS antenna, which is a 20 satellite GPS, you basically have a system that doesn't arm until you hit 30 miles an hour. The reason for that is pretty simple. You can't get a ticket in photo radar anywhere below 30 miles an hour. The local municipalities typically set between 10, 11, and 12 miles over the limit, depending upon what state you're in. And the lowest school zone speeds are typically about 25, which means tickets start around 35, 36 miles an hour. That's where everyone's getting tickets. The system will continue to operate all the way up to as fast as your car can go. The reason we did that is because a lot of times they've set up work zones. They're out there at 2 o'clock in the morning. The work zone's been left a month after the workers have left, and they're still giving $125 tickets if you're going 66 miles an hour in a 55 zone. I know, I got one of those actually. So we decided to remove the upper threshold. So essentially, it's two factors that set off your rear lights. You have to be going over 30 miles an hour at the time your radar detector goes off. The reason we've designed the system in this way is because radar detectors like this one, they're very sensitive to X, K, LiDAR, all the above, will draw current, they'll trigger, they'll set your lights off. If there's an ambush, something that's not in a database, this thing's going to get it. But Opto Traffic of Maryland has set up a new system that's not detectable with radar detectors like my Valentine. You have to get those on GPS. So a unit like this Passport 9500XI, which has GPS and radar both in it, are very good at detecting these. The Cheetah also does the same thing without having a radar detector because it's just a GPS unit by itself. So we've left the sensing of the threats up to the people who make sensors. Valentine, Escort, Beltronics, Cheetah, those folks. What we're adding is a system that enables you to keep your license plate from being photographed and keeps your privacy better protected, because now there's a whole series of cameras out that when they photograph your plate going through an intersection, they retain the data of your location for up to a year. There are a lot of people who just don't want to be photographed because they don't want to be tracked and they want privacy. So whether you want privacy or you don't want photo radar tickets or whether you just want a fantastic backup light, this is a great system to do it. It's completely automatic. It's set and forget. And the only things that you're going to see in your car are this little red light and switch head. And you're going to mount your GPS sensor somewhere. And other than that, the rest of it's invisible. When you look at the plate behind the car, all you see is this. We haven't obstructed the plate in any way. We haven't really attached anything to the plate. This is all behind the plate. So in essence, you're still in abeyance with all the laws as written in the local tri-state area, Maryland, D.C., Virginia. Someone can always raise an objection, but there's nothing in writing yet. If you have any doubts or someone's following you real close, you're worried about it, just turn the switch position to off. Anyway, that's the basics.